Since the Condemn coalition government came to power in 2010, our health service has faced its most sustained attack since its creation in 1948, and this continues apace under the current Tory government. Soon, very soon, we will all be left with a stark choice. Go along to a Skid Row NHS, where you might be dead by the time you're seen, or take out private health insurance. Jeremy Hunt is not responsible for your NHS. Your NHS is being deliberately run into the ground by a chap called Simon Stevens. Before he got the job running NHS England, Simon Stevens was president of global health at the biggest private health firm in America, United Health. And before that, he was an advisor to Tony Blair. I believe that the NHS is by far the finest creation of any nation. It embodies perfectly the kind of society in which I want to live, and perhaps more importantly, I want my kids to grow up in. It is paid for by everyone, for everyone. Everyone gets the help they need, when they need it, whoever they are. We must demand that the NHS must be returned to its original principles. Number one, it must be publicly provided by directly employed staff. Calling for the NHS to be publicly run is simply not good enough. For example, in most areas, dustbin collection is run by a local authority, but the service is provided by a private company. Publicly run is not good enough. It must be publicly provided. Number two, it must be paid for by general taxation. This is the fairest and most cost-effective way of funding a health service. Number three, it must be publicly accountable by restoring the Health Secretary's duty to provide. Amazingly, the Health Secretary is no longer legally required to provide you with an NHS thanks to the Health and Social Care Act. And number four, of course, it must be free at the point of clinical need. Because we don't want to see an A&E reception with chip and pin machines or a demand for payment before a doctor is allowed to save your life. Your NHS used to be the envy of the entire world. And those thieving Tory swines are trying their hardest to take it from you. The founder of the NHS, Aneurin Bevan, said that no society can legitimately call itself civilised if a sick person is denied medical aid because of a lack of means. And the denial of treatment of those who can't afford it is exactly where we're heading. Don't believe the lie that we can't afford a proper NHS or that we need a special new tax to pay for it. This is all part of the ploy to push us into the arms of the private health insurance industry. There's plenty of money to run the NHS properly, it's just being spent on the wrong things. For example, since the 2012 Act opened up every part of the NHS to the private sector, the administration alone of this marketplace is costing upwards of £10 billion per year. Every penny of that should have gone on patient care, but instead it's going on contract lawyers and marketing experts who are being paid this money to take the most profitable parts of your NHS and hand it to corporate vultures. The only way that this can be halted is to fully nationalise our health service. We must return to a system where we only say we've crossed the finish line when the last of us does, because no one is alone and there is such a thing as society. We do not turn our backs on those facing hard times. We do not abandon them or exploit their weakness because they are us. Aneurin Bevan said that the NHS would last as long as there were folk left with the faith to fight for it. Conference, let's demonstrate that we have that faith and that we are going to fight for it by backing this proposal. We owe it to ourselves and to our kids.
Thank you, Dave.